Faster than writing to a letter form. More thoughtful than angry clickbait. Able to discuss the world's first superhero in comics, film, TV, and more. It's the Supermaniacs. And I am joined today by Mike, having a super day so far. Excited to talk about this clip we got for the Superman movie coming July 11th this year. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's another brand new day full of Superman media, and I'm so excited that we didn't have to watch the Minecraft movie to watch this.
Yeah, we were joking about that the other day, but I actually did plan on buying a ticket and going to see the Minecraft movie just to see this clip. I was thinking, like, yeah, I'll probably just, like, watch that and then go home, because there's other things I want to do than watch the Minecraft movie, but...
I'm happy we live in this modern age where that's not a thing we have to do anymore.
But it would have been cool to see this footage on the big screen, you know, like in IMAX. I was seeing someone online saying, like, "Oh, I'm so glad that I got to see this in IMAX. At least it looks so epic." Some of these shots that we got of not just Superman, not just Krypto, but we see the fortress in all its glory. Some very polished effect shots.
Yeah, I was very surprised at the amount of effects we got in this latest one. Especially with the way the fortress moves, I thought was fascinating. There's some shots that I'm like, is that real ice? Because there's some shots that like look very similar in the way the crystals look, and I'm just surprised that like there's so much work that's going into this movie, even more than even I expected, which is not a bad thing. It's just like I'm surprised because I didn't expect anyone to go that hard again with Superman again.
So, still no second trailer, or like a full-on trailer, I guess, if you're going to call the first trailer a teaser. There's some speculation that we would get a trailer as well during CinemaCon in recent days, but they did give us this clip, and James Gunn has said that he is currently editing the next trailer that will be out very soon.
It makes sense because they've also teased the new Peacemaker trailer, so I feel like he's got his hands tied or his hands full on trailers. So I'm curious if he's also overseeing that trailer as well, which might be why it's taking longer than probably people were expecting.
And I think they just finished production on Peacemaker season 2. I could be wrong. That might have been done for a while, but I think they just recently wrapped on that.
I think so, but their Facebook page recently posted like a series of like very, very short clips that are clearly from season 2. So I'm very excited to see wherever that comes from too, because that's gonna be the weird, almost like the way Batman was in the New 52, where you're just like, well, some of the stuff happened,
right?
But what did?
That is a great comparison, though. Like that weird idea of like your soft continuity that will mostly survive the reboot intact, but like some things still won't quite make sense. But yeah, for people who don't remember, in 2011, DC rebooted the entire line of DC comics except Batman and Green Lantern. Both, for the most part, had like their entire continuities intact. That's gonna be Peacemaker going into this new DCU.
Yeah, it's the same like thing too, where they were both kind of cash cows that no one expected, and so they're like, well, we got to keep it intact because we're making more of this. It's like, yeah, but it's weird that you're doing that. Like, I don't know, it's just strange. Of all the people to survive the Snyderverse canon, I was not expecting it to be Peacemaker.
Right. But, you know, sometimes it's advantageous not to be the A-string character. You know, like Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Flash, they all, had like some weird version of their character that was only on screen for 1 or 2 movies and is now going to be rebooted.
I wonder if Peacemaker will have different stories about the new versions of everybody.
I think Gunn has said they're going to acknowledge that the scene of the Justice League appearing in season 1, which is basically the only thing in season 1 that he said is different in this new continuity. But when Peacemaker met the Jason Momoa Aquaman and the Ezra Miller Flash, like they're going to somehow like acknowledge that in season 2.
Which is crazy to me, but I'm very curious to see how that plays out. But we're not here to talk about Peacemaker.
Yeah,
as much as we'd like
enough
to,
on that. But yeah, I do want to ask you about the Superman clip that we got. Just before we get into breaking it down, the all the details, almost we can kind of run through it almost shot by shot in a second. But just your overall general reaction.
My overall general reaction is very positive because of the fact that it's a playful trailer is the best way of putting it, because it's not just like when you watch it you're expecting it to be like a almost a doom and gloom type thing because he slams down, he's very beat up, so you're expecting that to be like all about like, oh my god, he's dying kind of thing. Instead, it's this very playful moment where where it happens, but they show more of how Crypto is just a dog who just happens to be superpowered, and also being able to show off, that the fact the Fortress of Solitude exists. Not only does it exist, it's fucking rad, and it's full of robots that have different. This is the thing I really liked about it, was the voices on the robots were different. It wasn't just Alan Tudyk doing one of the voices. There was another robot with a different voice. I like the fact that they're all very clearly, inspired by the All Star Superman robots and
Mm-hmm.
not the other robots type thing.
I called that, by the way, in the trailer. I said immediately, I was like, "Oh, that looks like the All Star robots." So
No, I remember you calling that. I know a lot of us as well, because a lot of people were like, why do they look like that? It's like, oh, because they have like a number instead of like an S kind of thing. Because I was curious, like what exactly they would look like, and then they were all practical, which also caught me off guard, which I thought was like really cool.
oh,
And
were those practical? I think I just went in like assuming
I think
they were
like the
CG. But
close-ups of them are practical, but like
right, no, that would make sense. Yeah.
them being carried were like, I think that was all like CG. But every time it cut to them, it was like that's like a Muppet basically. Like
Mm.
that is a robot that you have made to open its mouth, kind of thing. And like because the way it blinks is very practical, and I like that because it really shows that there's a lot more. I want to say love, but that's not just what I mean. But the love of cinema is more what's being added to that, because most places would just half-ass it and be like, all the things are CGI. Even Marvel does that. Like all their suits are pure CGI nowadays. So it's like this is why I'm more excited about this universe, is the fact that I can. It's the first time in a while that I look at a character and I'm like, I feel your outfit is real. I feel the world around you is real. The only thing that's like clearly very CGI is Crypto, but that's because you can't make a dog do any of the things that it does.
Right, they're not the best actors, so
Exactly, but I'm very excited to see, and I wish it lasted longer. That was the other thing about the clip, and it shows that the fortress is a place he can go to when something happens to him, and that they do the old thing where it's like just when in doubt, shoot him with sun.
well, when I saw this for the first time, my first immediate reaction was a kind of a bittersweet one. It was like, oh my god, I know this movie is going to break my heart at some point with Crypto because he is just so precious. He is the best good boy out there, and I know at some point in the movie, James Gunn is going to pull on our heartstrings and make us feel sad for the space dog, and I'm already dreading like weeping when I worry about Crypto being in danger in the
I'm
movie.
terrified of Crypto being in danger, but I'm just as terrified of the robots being in danger, because for just the small amount of time we had for them, I already immediately was like, I love you too, you two little robot people.
And I wasn't expecting Alan Tudyk as the voice of the robot. But when I heard that, I was like, okay, that immediately makes sense. I've already seen people speculate that Michael Rooker is going to be another robot. Like all of the James Gunn regulars are all going to be those Superman robots.
I'd be fine with that. It's just interesting because Alan Tudyk is like everyone apparently in Gunn's like universe, because he does like multiple people now, doesn't he?
Right, he was multiple voices on Creature Commandos, actually.
And
So
wasn't the rumor he was going to be Clayface again or something like that, or the voice of Clayface again?
yeah, who
Some shit
knows if
like
that's
that.
going to happen? But I mean, there is a Clayface movie coming out, so
Yeah, I think that's what they said he might do the voice for it. And if they do, I'm like, well, how? Like, I'm just like Alan Tudyk is just your everybody character. I think that's interesting to do because I love Alan Tudyk, but interesting choice to keep adding him to everything.
But the other thing that stood out to me was just kind of getting an idea of like, okay, how much are they going to lean into their various inspirations? Clearly, there's a lot of All Star Superman. Clearly, there's a lot of of the John Williams music. The fortress itself with the sunstone crystals still leaning into that Richard Donner look that most depictions of the fortress, I guess, have done in recent years. Uh, the the other thing with the robots, I saw some people like already speculating about this. Is okay, it's weird to have a conversation with your robots where one robot is saying like we don't have any emotions, and then right after that another robot is like, oh, he looked at me, I'm very emotional. But beyond that, I liked seeing a Superman that has so many of the toys he's allowed to play with in the comics and in animation, but we haven't gotten in live action before. Like having this very elaborate fortress packed with Kryptonian technology, including some Silver Agey looking robots, having Crypto there at the fortress. So I love that this is not going to be an origin movie, as Gunn has repeatedly said. And it is very likely. Well, I guess he's actually confirmed this. This is how the movie opens with the crash in the snow and then the rescue from Crypto. Uh, that is something Gunn was talking about at CinemaCon. Is saying the sneak peek is just kind of a trimmed down version of the opening of the movie. So and Mike, you had some theories about how this might actually be edited in the movie.
Yeah, because if you watch the original teaser trailer we got, when he slams down, because it's the exact same kind of opening shot, but the difference is that I felt like the editing on the shot felt one a little darker, like the colors are a little more saturated. I think because it's supposed to be more of a like it's supposed to feel like a darker moment kind of thing. And then when it cuts to him, spitting the blood out, the shot of the way the snow is, because in the sneak peek, it's like you see everything from like say the ice is like right here thing. You can see the whole thing, but with the other one, the ice is like slightly covering his face almost, and I feel like there's a little more blood from when he spits it out in the teaser trailer version. But and then everything else I assume is just the same thing that happened, but like edited down, kind of thing, because it's the exact same like conversation that he's having with Crypto. Pretty much, just it doesn't have the part where he's jumping on him the way the sneak peek does. So I just thought that was really interesting because that's the only thing we can compare it to right now, because there's no other trailers right now. We've only seen stills and people taking pictures of the sets and people acting, so we don't have much else to work with other than that specific comparison. And I thought that was interesting, like immediately, because I find that fascinating that like that this is like I because my theory is that you're right, that the way James Gunn is saying that it does open with this, but I'm thinking it has a darker version of the opening to show like, hey, this is like a serious moment, almost like you might be wondering how I got here type of situation. And then the sneak peek is probably what happens like after the actual thing happens, if that makes sense.
Right, like that classic framing device of opening your story 75% of the way into the narrative, then flashing back to the beginning, and then, in the third act, you catch back up at that 75% point, and then, go on with the rest of the movie.
Exactly.
And I think that is also very much in line with how Gunn has shown us he wants to show his Superman. That this is a very down to earth, relatable guy. Like the first thing we ever saw of Gunn's Superman was in that poster image of him like putting his boots on,
Yeah.
and like showing like, oh yeah, I still put my boots on, one at a time. Here like the very first thing we see is like, oh, this guy just got the crap beat out of him, and his dog is hurting him on accident, trying to enthusiastically react to his presence or whatever. So it's like, oh yeah, this is a relatable guy. This is like stuff that I go through in life. So
Every pet owner has had that moment happen to them. I had it happen to me yesterday.
yeah, also like having a dog who's not always the best behaved. I think Crypto is gonna be like a rescue dog, is the story, just based on Gunn talking about his real experience with the dog that he and I guess his wife recently rescued, but it was a very destructive dog, like ate one of his laptops or something.
Yeah, he wanted the dog to, because you know how like a lot of the versions of Crypto, he's a purebred like Labrador looking thing, or hound, or like depending on whatever the version they draw. I know in the new 52 it was like a dire wolf basically.
Yeah,
Um
very wolf-like, but
and so like, but it's always a very like majestic animal type thing, whereas like he wanted Crypto to be like a mutt, and when you
mhm.
look at him, he is. You don't really know what he is, and it really. it really makes the boy and his dog more relatable in my opinion, because that's how a lot of people I know growing up. Most people don't just own like a purebred dog. Most people have a dog that they just happen to get who is kind of an asshole. But not like in a mean way, just in a way that's just like he doesn't really know any better. And because there's a great action comics that has like Lois seeing Crypto kind of through her eyes, where like every time he breaks something, she gets mad, and Clark's just like, he's just a good boy. I don't know what to tell you, kind of thing. And I like that. That's kind of what he's going with Crypto. He's a dog that happens to have superpowers. He's not like a super.
Right.
He's not the dog you get from like $5,000 worth of training type of thing. He's the dog you get for $50 from, if you're lucky, from a fucking rescue, because otherwise you found him on the street type of dog. Who's just like, he loves his master a lot, but he's not going to be like heel. He's not going to automatically know what heel means or like shake or that kind of thing. He's just going to fucking, he sees you laying down, he's like, hey, it's time to get up. And that's what's happening in the scene, and I love that about it.
Yeah, like the comics have sometimes depicted Crypto as like a super intelligent dog or like a dog who has like human level intellect. But I always prefer the Crypto as just like, oh yeah, he's the same as a typical Earth dog, but just dialed up to Superman level. He's a dog with like super strength and X-ray vision and flight and your standard Kryptonian powers.
Yeah, my favorite version of Crypto is the version where whenever they do like a voiceover, he almost sounds like Bizarro in his head, because he's just a dog. He's just like me, hungry, me beat up person for Superman kind of thing. And I'm like, I like that. I like that about that version. Those versions of Crypto. I don't like the ones where he's like, and he did like advanced calculus to figure out some crazy shit. It's like,
Right,
he's a
right.
dog, dude.
But yeah, just going through the clip, we can kind of just talk through it linearly. But it opens with that shot you were describing of Superman crashing in the snow, and if we think this is going to be his introduction in the movie, kind of like the opening shot of Superman. Which is an interesting choice. This is the first thing we saw in like the first trailer, but yeah, okay, we're gonna start off the Superman story by showing he can get his ass kicked. But then, showing Crypto in here, where I immediately, like, where my heart starts to melt for Crypto is like those moments when, Crypto is super excited to see his owner and is all jumping all over him and stuff, completely oblivious, like, oh, I'm really like hurting this guy with like every move and everything. But then, like, when you see like Crypto start to have like some concern and like tilt his head, like, wait a minute, why isn't Dad getting up? And it's like, oh, like, I don't know, just seeing like that concern from the dog. It's like, man, I'm gonna be so sad when something sad happens to this dog.
Yeah, there's a lot of such great emotion from Crypto within like such a short amount of time frame. And then there's more that I started noticing, that you see more of Clark's injuries on his neck. Like there's like a large bruise on his neck that I don't feel like was there when he first lands. Like almost like his body is like slowly bruising as he's like laying there.
Oh,
But yet the
yeah,
dog is just like, for the love of God.
this could also be like unfinished, like CGI injuries that they're adding later in post or something. But you get like a good look at like Crypto's cape. Like he has like the yellow triangle on the back of his cape, which we love on this show. We're big fans of the yellow S on the back of the
Huge
cape.
show. They're huge fans. And then you can see more of the collar having
Right.
the S on it as well. And I love the fact that they went with the yellow collar, because I remember thinking, I'm just like, I love the fact that he just looks like he's wearing a Superman belt and cape, just that happens to be on his neck.
I am so excited that we're getting a DC universe where they're not embarrassed of some of these wackier ideas. Like, yeah, we're going to show Crypto the Superdog with his red cape and with like a little S triangle medallion hanging on his collar. And, instead of like years and years of stuff like perfect example, like we're both big fans of the show Superman and Lois, but okay, like their version of Crypto is okay, that was just like an earth dog, that Clark Kent happened to adopt, which was fine, worked well for that story. But I mean, come on, that's like a Smallville type thing. Like give me the actual super dog from another planet.
Yeah, this is the thing that I know me and you have talked in the past, which is the fact that superhero movies have started getting embarrassed by being a superhero movie again. And I also mean that for Marvel, because I know a lot of people are like, "What? No, Marvel has done all these types of things." I'm like, "Yeah, but they haven't really done it that way since Endgame ended. Outside of Guardians 3, but that's because that's because Zach, not Zach, that's because James Gunn still cares about all that stuff. But you'll watch something and they'll be like, I don't really think anybody really wants to know about this thing about they can't even get a Blade movie off the ground type of thing. It's like they're not willing to get silly with stuff again. Everything is supposed to be really serious, or everything has to be really or way too comedic in a way that they almost make fun of the roots of like where that thing is coming from. And which is a shame, because I feel like the MCU was doing a good job of making that stick around for a while until fairly recently. But I think that's because they think that audiences don't want that anymore, and which has never been true. There's just a large vocal, or not large, a small minority vocal that are very loud, that just don't understand comics. They don't understand. Like I keep seeing people react to this clip and be like, "Well, why does Superman get beat up? Why isn't he just the god?" I'm like, "Because that's not who Superman is. You're just used to that being who he was because of the way media has treated him for the past 15 years. How long ago was Man of Steel?
Oh, that was 11 years ago, right? That was 14. No, 13, 12 years ago.
Yeah, so it's like everybody, because the way the Snyder treated Superman was he was a god, like a god, to the point where if you watch Justice League, you're like, you don't need the Justice League for this. You literally just need Superman and the Flash, and you would have been fine, type of thing in both the Snyder version and the other cut, the Whedon cut. Whereas, like, no, Superman should not be the godlike being. Like, he should be the strongest thing on the planet, but he shouldn't be like completely invincible to everything he fights. I think that's one of the reasons people like
Yeah,
Invincible, because Invincible does that.
But there's kind of two different ways to handle Superman. Either like where he is just that godlike level strength who can, blow stars out like he's blowing a candle out from Earth, just like insane physics like that. Or the more grounded Superman who can bleed, who can get a bruised up face from a fight. So we don't know what was going on before Crypto comes to rescue him either. I assume he's fighting the character in the trailers who's in that black suit. That we don't know who it is. The toys have given a name to that character, but it's still not super obvious.
Yeah,
Um,
everybody has like their theories on it. I'm hoping for a very specific person, but who knows if that'll ever happen, kind of thing. Because we like there's been a lot of toys that have shown off some stuff that have come out recently that also added some theories in my head of what could be happening in some scenes. But it's tricky. I don't really like. It's hard. We don't know enough. Like James Gunn has done a really good job of just slowly giving us crumbs, but just enough that
mhm.
makes me go, "This pie is going to be amazing," type of thing.
Yeah,
Like,
and they're about to really dial up the marketing. I think after this next trailer comes out soon, later this month probably.
yeah,
Um,
because they've already got toy designs. They've already gotten all kinds of
mhm.
things set up for this, and there's already you can already find shirts and apparently underwear for the movie already. So they're getting ready.
Well, we get some dialogue from the robots about his injuries. They talk about like the broken ribs. He has damage to a lot of vital organs, like I think they say kidneys and liver or lungs. So like he is really like beat the hell up when they find him. I don't know if there was any kryptonite involved, but this is kind of giving us an idea of like what power scale the gun Superman will be at. Like what kind of well, of those two different Supermans I was describing is like the godlike or just like a pretty strong superhuman type character. It kind of feels like this is skewing a little bit more like this guy might be possible to fight this guy to death without kryptonite. Like he's a little bit more kind of like that John Byrne style, not quite as all powerful Superman.
Yeah, it reminds me of John Byrne Superman is actually the best way of putting it, because John Byrne Superman was he was very strong. He's the strongest thing on the planet, but he's he fights people all the time who can give him a run for his money. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until later on, especially after John Byrne left, where people started adding more feats to his strength as well as his speed and everything, to the point where writers did a great job of being like, look, he's actually as strong as he used to be. He just has his own mental blocks because he wants to be normal so bad that he holds back, type of thing. And I wonder if James Gunn will play with that idea, like if as the DC universe goes on. But I don't know. That's up to him, really, at the end of the day. Or maybe this Clark will just stay like this, like the way almost the way the DC animated one did, because that one starts off kind of John Byrne like and kind of stays
Mm-hmm.
that way till
But
like the very last chunk of Justice League Unlimited.
yeah, but he does some pretty powerful stuff in Justice League Unlimited. So I think this is a good way to handle it. Actually, if you're doing a new version of the DC universe, I would kind of take a an approach where I start off with a more grounded Superman, but then later when you're on like the fourth or fifth movie that he's in, that's when you can go into the okay, he's gonna have like a super powerful fight with Darkseid that like tears up a planet in the process or something like that.
Yeah, something really cool like that. And I love the fact that the fortress isn't just like a solid piece, because that's the thing about a lot of versions, or actually pretty much all versions of the Fortress of Solitude, is it's just a building that's out in the middle of nowhere, type of thing. But I love the fact that
Yeah,
this one kind of like is hidden, so it comes out of the ground and it like can turn depending on what they need. I thought that was really interesting.
yeah, it's
And
very organic. It kind of has like this
yeah,
alien technology kind of like organic nature to it.
it's also like not straight, or it's not like symmetrical. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not symmetrical the way the one in Donner's was, where it was very much like both sides just like are kind of similar. They're just sort of, you know, like crossing over on each other. But it feels like one giant building basically. Where this one, it feels almost like a hand that sticks out of the ground because of the way it sets up. If that makes sense.
Yeah, there's that shot of it rising up from the ice after Crypto finally gets the instructions to bring him home. We see it kind of glow or grow from the ice. And then there's no giant key to get in, like the comics have sometimes depicted. I'm almost surprised there's so much All Star Superman in here. They didn't go with the tiny key that has like the weight of a massive key.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, that one would have been
maybe it has
fun.
that too, though.
Yeah, maybe it's just like that's there for people who can't get in by via DNA or something. I like that it opens for Crypto by him just like
By Bark
standing in front of
command.
it. Yeah, and I love that he just patiently waits for it too.
Yeah,
He doesn't like
and
immediately try to bring him in.
the S logo that they're using for this movie, which is basically just like the Kingdom Come S, but with more color. But it looks so good on the door to the fortress when it lights up, glowing like the kind of light like the center of the triangle at the top. Like the S pops more than normal. Just like I really like them going with this logo, this choice for
That
the
logo is
movie.
so nice, and then you can see it if you really pay attention, because somebody pointed this out on I think a Reddit or something, that on the instruments you can see like little versions of that S on them here and there, but they're really small, so they're like really subtle, which I thought was really fun.
Some of these dog shots are really good. I assume like most of these are CGI, but they probably had like some dog on set, at least just for like reference purposes.
Yeah, the way he drops him and then like moves on, like I feel like that is like they watched a dog carry something and then drop it and then walk off to really get that movement down. Because I've seen a dog do it that way, like just drop it and then sort of do a little, almost like a quick jig as they're walking away.
But yeah, we know from the trailer also that at least one of these Superman robots is gonna get beat up. So
Yeah,
uh,
so you'll
I'm
notice the way this robot moves. The reason I think it's practical because it reminds me of the way Crow talks in Mystery Science Theater.
yeah, yeah. No, I see it now. But yeah, there's some really cool shots of the fortress interior where you can see some of the like I don't know, almost like Kryptonian science equipment. It looks like oh, this is probably what was in Jor-El's laboratory. It was tech that looks like this.
Yeah,
So
this is what I was
I
talking about
kind of
too.
wish,
If you look at one of the panels, you can see like a small S directly in the middle of one of them, which you have to
yeah,
really look at it. Yeah.
yeah, but there's some stuff on these like round screens, which is another like cool alien sci-fi thing. Like oh, let's have like screens and monitors, but they're all like on round surfaces instead of
I also
squares
didn't
like on
notice the
Earth.
other robots in the background there, and
Yeah, well, we know
the
there's at
machinery.
least 12 of them. So I
Yeah,
guess there
she's
are
because she's the
12
new
because
one.
yeah, number 12 is new. So my theory is that they get more personality and more humanity. Like the more that's why 4 seemed colder and more robotic.
It would make sense because maybe the fortress like starts to like go based on how he is more than what the Kryptonian system wants him to. Because that's the other thing I'm curious about. Which version of Krypton are we gonna like really feel in this world? Is it going to be like the John Byrne, really sterile, kind of emotionless type Krypton, or are we going to get like
I hope not.
the world that's like the Krypton that we were more of a fan of type of thing? That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I want a Krypton that I'm sad that it blew up. I heard Mark Waid describe that when he did his version of the Superman origin story Birthright. He said one of the things he wanted to change was to make make Krypton a place that we grieve its destruction. And I don't agree with everything in Birthright, but I think that was a good instinct to have.
That's the thing we should always feel about Krypton. We should always feel that Krypton is this magical world where everything was so technologically advanced that you feel like they had everything at the tip of their fingers, but then the hubris of man, possibly destroyed Krypton, or maybe and just people not listening to what's right in front of them. Like something that's super avoidable that just nobody wants to stop, and which makes it that much more tragic.
But I would also like to see a fortress that gets a little bit more decorative, a little bit more inhabited. Like I want to see a fortress that has like trophies and stuff in it. So maybe like as these movies go on, I want to see kind of a fleshed out fortress. Like
Yeah, I want to
throw in
see a
like
Silver
a
Age
bottle city at
fortress.
Candor.
Yeah, I want that. I want that fortress that has like the fucking life sized mannequins of everybody. You know what I mean? That almost look like a chessboard.
Yeah, it's kind of like I want a bat cave that has like the giant penny and the dinosaur. I don't think we're gonna get that in any Robert Pattinson Batman movie, but maybe the DCU one, whatever they do with that, maybe that Batman will have a giant dinosaur in his cave. But it's kind of
I
like
would
that
love
same
for the
thing.
giant penny. The giant penny would be so fun.
Yeah, I think that one's a little easier to explain because of Two Face and all. But yeah, I want to see a fortress that can have like trophies in it, or can have like maybe like if they make hopefully several of these movies that we see this version of Superman again and again, like just throw in some more remnants of the past adventures in his fortress. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I like them leaning into the Sunstone stuff, but still giving it a unique look. Like you're not going to mistake this for the Donner Fortress or the Superman Returns Fortress. Like it's still kind of a unique image.
Yeah, what made the Donner Fortress so like not just striking but very alien is the fact that everything is crystal based, like everything. Like you
Hmm.
slide crystals into chambers. Your bed looks kind of crystally. Your even the like the chamber that takes away his powers is just a
Yeah.
giant crystal chamber. Like everything, it's like it's like a Minecraft thing made of only the same material.
Yeah, the,
And
the,
there's
the
just something off
spaceship that he
about it.
came to Earth on was just a bunch of crystals.
Yeah, like everything. For some reason, Krypton was just purely crystal based everything, which made it very alien in that sense. But what I like about this is it makes it very 1950s alien, if that makes sense, where everything's more like wacky looking in that sense.
Well, speaking of the Donner influence, we do get some of the original score in this clip. We hear a lot of music. There's this music when Crypto is on the run with Superman bringing him into the fortress. But we have that John Williams theme come in when Superman is being charged back up with the yellow sunlight. So it's like, oh man, they show us like this first clip and it has the Williams theme in it. So I think it's gonna come up a lot in the movie.
Yeah, he's a big fan of needle drop type things, and I feel like that's another thing that's missing from a lot of superhero movies since Phase One Iron Man, or not Phase One Iron Man, Phase One Marvel onwards, is that there's a point where they stopped using their themes throughout it, except for again Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy loved using its theme as much as possible, and I feel like that really lends to what he's going to use it as. I'm curious as to whether or not it's going to have like a soundtrack with like licensed music, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it will. I kind of like. I hope that we don't find out about that stuff ahead of time. I kind of want to go into the theater and be surprised by that, but uh, I don't think. I think Gunn has actually said like it's not going to have as many songs as he typically has in a movie, but it will have a few.
Yeah, I was very curious about that because I know Superman the movie doesn't really isn't really littered with them, which is one of the reasons it makes it very timeless. So I was wondering if Gunn was maybe going with that idea or not. But if it doesn't, that's it doesn't bother me. I'm just always curious what his thought process is because James Gunn has such an interesting idea of how superhero movies and superhero media should be done compared to a lot of other people, which is why I'm more excited about this than I am anything Marvel's doing right now.
It's also exciting knowing that the same guy is also in charge of all the animation, all the TV shows, he's even the comics. He's even got like some influence on the what the comics are doing. So there's going to be a lot of synchronicity going forward. Like one of the things that came up at CinemaCon is Gunn was saying he's excited for people to start seeing these characters in other movies and other DC projects. We know that Guy Gardner is going to be part of that Lanterns TV show coming to Max next year.
Oh, is he
Who
really?
knows? Like, yeah, like maybe Nicholas Holtz Luthor might show up in Peacemaker season 2 or something like I don't know. Like all that stuff's possible.
That's why I'm so excited because I feel like Marvel did a good job of that in the first couple phases, and then they just sort of forgot that about doing that. People just stopped showing up in other things, not just because they got busy, but I feel like because they didn't want to even try to get them into these things. So I'm curious to see not just how this fares, but how if we're lucky, it'll change the way people make licensed properties again. Because whenever something hits hard, a lot of people are like, we got to make something like that again. And so I want to see if not only does it affect comic book movies, but maybe even the video game movies that they're making more and more of.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about like the Minecraft movie. That it looked like it had like a pretty big opening weekend. So I guess the video
That thing
game based
shattered.
movies are here to stay.
I have no issues with that as long as they make good movies. The problem is we don't that we might be in that era. We might in that era the way superhero movies were in the very beginning, where people didn't really take them that seriously. So we're just getting like really half-assed type things. That's why I kind of want this to like maybe make a change for that. The way The Last of Us did, that made a change for how people can look at a
Mm.
video game adaptation. But I'm hoping this makes people remember that hey, licensed properties make more money when they're very good because people want to see them again and again.
Well, best case scenario that when July gets here, not only do we have a great Superman movie that kind of reinvigorates, what word am I trying to say? Kind of
Invigorates.
reignites, uh, but that that really gets DC like back on track, but also a Fantastic Four movie that does the same thing for Marvel. Like I would love them both to be big triumphant successes.
Yeah, I want them both to succeed very a lot. don't get me wrong. I'm biased because I want Superman to do better, not because I don't want Fantastic Four to do badly. It's because I want the DC universe to thrive.
It
Because
has
I'm
more
so
writing on it, like
yeah, like every from
if
what everybody's been saying, this thing might be like WB's like last fucking hope at saving itself, almost. So we'll see how that plays out.
but how appropriate for Superman, like he's always presented as like that savior type figure, so
That's the one thing I will say about the Snyderverse is them also starting with Superman. I thought was a great idea because as much as I love Batman, I don't feel like when you start that small, I feel like it doesn't work the same way. It's like if you started the MCU with like Daredevil, it just wouldn't make any sense.
well, I guess that's one of my concerns I do have for the movie, I guess, is as excited as I am to see these characters and to see characters that I am especially a big fan of that aren't that big in the mainstream pop culture, but say like Guy Gardner. I'm a huge fan of Guy Gardner, Green Lantern. I also like Mr. Terrific. I like Hot Girl. I love that Metamorpho is going to be at a big budget movie. But are we going to distract away from the Superman staples? Are we going to spend more time with them than with like Clark and Lois's relationship, or developing Lex as this villain, or the setting up the Daily Planet and that setting? So I on the other hand, though, I am very excited that they are going to give us this very large slice of DC universe in this movie. Like it looks like it's going to show a lot of, at least a lot of different superheroes, possibly like different villains. We don't know everything that's going on the villain side of things, but I would like, that's kind of one of my complaints with Marvel, with the MCU, is I don't think there's really like a super villain community, and I think that's something like DC has such a great rogues gallery that I think it'd be cool to see like a just some of those colorful villains, just kind of casually pop up and stuff like this. But
Yeah, the MCU doesn't really lend itself to like the idea of supervillain teams, which is it's just one of my main issues with the MCU. Like you're never going to see like the what was the Frightful Four or whatever they're called, that kind of thing, because a lot of times they want to do like one guy at a time because they're scared of doing multiple character or
right,
multiple villains. And then when they do like the MCU, not just the MCU, but a lot of superhero movies in general had the problem where they're like, well, and then they died at the end of the movie. It's just like, no, that's like we want
yeah, like
like I would rather them survive so you could use them again later on if you want to do something like that. Like or like a big team thing. It's the reason why like the Sinister Six, as awesome as that would be, I don't feel like the MCU would know how to actually do it because it's just not something they could do. But I could see James Gunn pulling off a goddamn Rogues from the Flash if he wanted to, because he only kills villains if he really feels like it's he's not going to use them again, kind of thing. Because he's kept characters alive to show up again, in multiple Guardians things, and he even did that with the way Peacemaker was. Like when he killed somebody in that show or in the movie for the Suicide Squads, because he's like, I don't have any plans for this guy later down the line. Because I felt like when he kills Captain Boomerang in that movie, he's like, you can't make the Rogues in this universe. Like nobody's like, they don't even want to make the Rogues. Like the Flash's movie villain was Zod. It's like they didn't
yeah,
care about any of that stuff. It's just ridiculous.
yeah. That's a great point. I say, Gunn likes some of these Black Label books and some of these like out of continuity stories. The Scott Williamson Rogues graphic novel from not that long ago. They should do that as like a Max mini series.
There's so many things that he can do with this universe, and it's one of the only universes that has large teams of characters consistently. Like because Marvel has a couple of them, but they don't really use them even in comics that often. Whereas DC, they every 20 seconds they want the Legion of Doom to happen. So it's just like,
Right.
and I want to see that happen in a movie one day. I want to see Lex Luthor team up with the Joker or Gorilla Grodd or Sinestro. Like I want all of those things. Like I want the weird to interact I want that so bad.
Yeah, and stick them all in like the big Darth Vader head in the swamp, like on Super Friends.
You know, I just noticed something in one of the shots that happened right now.
What's that?
It's the remember it's that shot where Clark and Lois are inside of the apartment talking, and you see something attacking in the background. I didn't notice that. I think you can
Mm-hmm.
see like the Green Lantern ring shooting at it,
Right.
like for
Yeah.
just a
So
quick second.
I think Guy Gardner is doing some ring slinging in that shot, but yeah, I think that is going to be what was the Sun Eater in All Star Super Solaris, right?
Yeah, Solaris was I think was his name.
Was like the final boss of that story, so I think they're going to borrow that. I'm kind of surprised at how much visuals from All Star Superman are in here with the robots looking so similar. But you know that just speaks volumes to a guy who's clearly not afraid to do the old Silver Age sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, it's a world where it's a world where if Brainiac happens, I can see the giant skull ship happening. I can vision him doing that without any sense of irony. I can see I could literally see the Condiment King show up and he wouldn't bat an eyelash that that character exists. Like it's just like this is the
I
type
mean,
of world that James Gunn thrives in.
he's the filmmaker who did a sequel to the gritty, very unusual looking Suicide Squad movie where you have like Joker has like gang tattoos and stuff, like trying to like make it look like real world, real life criminal stuff. And he makes a sequel to that movie that has Starro, the giant alien starfish. So
Yeah, and Polka Dot Man. Like that's these are things that
yeah,
happened. Like if I God, I can't fathom that Zack Snyder's universe would have those characters in it because they wouldn't normally. I guarantee
right.
you, if
No,
Zack Snyder was in charge of like actually, if Zack Snyder was actually with James Gunn, like with him to be like, this doesn't make any sense. There's not. This is too silly. It's not the greedy vision that I have for everything that I've been doing so far. And you know, but James Gunn's just like the second he wasn't there, James Gunn was just like, yeah, Polka Dot Man, Weasel, Starro, like fuck all of it, like King Shark, but he talks funny, kind of thing. Just like he did, like he just goes all in. Like he's willing to be. He looks at a DC comic. He goes, "What's silly in here, and how do I make you take it seriously in a fun way that's not like do I not like not the way you know you take seriously like say like when like the way the Super Mario Brothers movie was, where they're like, we're gonna make a Super Mario Brothers movie, but it's gonna be gritty, and the toads are gonna be like, or not the toads, the Goombas are gonna be like giant lizard guys because making them tiny people was dumb, kind of things. Like no, like we. It's like no, it's more like the new Super Mario Brothers movie, the animated one. They're like, we're gonna take it seriously, but everything is still what it is. We're just not gonna really make fun of it that much. You're gonna take the Mushroom Kingdom seriously. You're gonna understand that this world exists. And James Gunn is that type of guy. He doesn't look at the Daily Planet and goes, "What if it was a super bland building?" He looks at the Daily Planet and goes, "What if the Daily Planet looks like a place that you would want to visit right now?" And I find that so much more inspiring than you know even what the MCU is doing.
right, like adaptations that actually understand the source material. You know, one option of like presenting the Daily Planet would be like, okay, well, this ridiculous image from the comics and cartoons and whatever, of like this like giant globe on top of the building. I guess I'm just going to translate that into something that looks modern and realistic. That's like the backwards approach. I like this James Gunn vision instead of like, oh, I have I'm going to make a modern movie designed to allow all of these fantastic visuals to exist in it.
And it allows the world to be able to do that with everything else. Like it makes me excited for the rest of the rest of the world because you can now that you can look at a building like that, you can imagine a Wayne Enterprises that's really extravagant. You can imagine a Joker's hideout that's really extravagant. You can imagine
Hmm.
A rogues gallery with extravagant outfits, doing extravagant things, fighting a version of the Flash that's just having fun with it. Same with Martian Manhunter, or even somebody like Plastic. Like you could, this world makes me believe a man like Plastic Man exists. You know what I mean? Whereas the
I
Snyderverse, if
hope, yeah,
Plastic
they
Man
could name
existed,
drop
he would
them,
have
you
been
know?
a gritty fucking guy that was like, just a serial killer who stretched sometimes or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just
I
like
mean,
that world
not to
never would have
keep
made me think about that.
not to keep hating on the guy, but like we couldn't even get Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy freaking Olsen, a Superman staple character. Like he couldn't even exist without getting brutally killed
Yeah, like he didn't.
in the Snyder version of DC.
Like I get. Like I'm not trying to shit on Snyder over and over again, although I am. But it's not on purpose. It's not because I hate Snyder. It's because his vision for a DC universe would have made a great Elseworlds. Would have made a fantastic Elseworlds. But as a mainstay universe to sell to the general audience as well as even kids, it was a terrible idea. A terrible idea.
Well, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on the clip, but there was one other piece of news that I thought was interesting, and I was reading over some of the things that came out at CinemaCon. But we got a little bit of details on the status of the Clark and Lois romantic relationship. It sounds like that they are a few months into the relationship. I'm still not sure if she knows if at the beginning of the movie if she knows that Clark is Superman, but it sounds like they're definitely like already in a relationship. So she definitely by the end of the movie, like we see enough shots of her with Clark and with Superman that like okay, it looks like she's clearly like romantic with both those identities. So uh,
I
I don't
love
know if you
that
have any
James
thoughts on
Gunn.
that before we close
Well,
off.
the only thought I have is that I like that James Gunn is just going to be like, "This is the status quo, and you just got to deal with it." Like he's not going to be like, "Oh, we're going to see at the beginning of the romance." Or like, he's like, "You're either in, or you're out." Like, like he did that with everything when it came to the way Guardians was. You just had to accept that there was a city inside of a giant skull, or that like time has moved on and now these characters are in a relationship type thing. Like you don't have to see them get together immediately type thing. I think that's really great because it means that he doesn't feel like he's so confident in this universe that he feels like he doesn't have to explain to you why these two should be together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's great
Yeah,
because it makes me happy.
romance is a hard thing to do, and a really hard thing to do is okay, you only have like 2 hours to tell us a story. Now convince us that these two people are madly in love. If you only have like 120 minutes to do it, it can be a hard thing to pull off. But yeah, I agree with you. I like the confidence of him being like, I don't have to show the relationship from the ground up. We can just hit the ground running in media res and see where it goes. Um, I am very excited to see what happens on April 18th, which is Superman Day, which isn't like typically that big of a holiday, but hopefully this year DC is doing the summer of Superman and all of that, so we'll probably get some comic news if nothing else, but it's likely we get the trailer that James Gunn is talking about, editing the next trailer. That might drop on April 18th.
I want DC to take Superman Day as seriously as they do, but not even that seriously, like half as seriously as they do Batman Day. And I want it so bad.
But I'm looking forward to seeing like whatever is in like the new trailer. If we get like a little bit more hint at the plot, maybe more details on the mysterious black suited villain. I think it's gonna be like some type. It's gonna at the end of the day though, it's gonna be like some version of Bizarro. It's gonna be like a clone of Superman that Lex made. I don't know if
I
they'll
wouldn't
actually
mind
like
that.
end up calling him Bizarro, but I think that I think this is gonna be kind of a story because we know that we're gonna have like the kind of a version of Justice League International or kind of like a Maxwell Lord sponsored Justice League team. I think this might be kind of a like Lex is trying to create like his own Superman.
I would love. That's the thing is like I know there's a lot of like theories, but if anybody needs to be in a movie, it's got to be Bizarro.
Oh, yeah, that's
I'm
another
not
great
just saying
point
that because
though.
I'm wearing the shirt.
But there's never been a Bizarro in a movie. Like I guess there's a lot of Superman villains that have never been in a movie, but
Before you guys mentioned Superman 4 and that deleted scene, doesn't count.
Nuclear Man is kind of a quasi bizarre. Like even like the version that's actually like in the movie. I guess he's still he's an imperfect copy of Superman created by Lex. So
You know what's funny? With
almost bizarre.
the way Nuclear Man is made is closer to the way modern Superboy is than Bizarro.
Right, because he's a combination of both their
Yeah,
DNA. That's a
him and
good
Nuclear
point.
Man are brothers.
They are, yeah. They're full on brothers. He's more brothers to him than he is to Jonathan Kent.
I find that fascinating. We should send that to somebody. Mark Wade, make that happen. You know you want to.
But I would like to talk about Superman 4. I just watched that not that long ago. I was showing my girlfriend Taylor a lot of older Superman and Batman movies because she hadn't seen anything like before the Nolan Batman movies. So
Really?
we watched the Adam West movie, which she thought was hilarious.
It is funny.
Then we did all four Christopher Reeve Superman movies. So she only liked the first two, which I told her that's normal.
No, that's very normal. In fact, I think 3 is worse than 4.
I agree. I loved four as a kid. I had a lot of fun with it. So I
Oh,
still
yeah,
had fun rewatching it with her.
yeah. Even as an adult, I find 4 fascinating. I don't. You can't see it right now, but I have the comic adaptation of Part 4 behind me on my bookshelf.
Oh, and we even did the Helen Slater Supergirl movie, which
Oh God,
I actually have like a soft spot for that movie. There's a lot in it that I like, but
that movie is so weird.
I had a big crush on Helen Slater, so that contributes to my fondness for it. But
That's fair. I was happy they brought her back for the Supergirl show for a little bit.
yeah, I just showed Taylor last night. Actually, we watched Batman '89, and she loved like Jack Nicholson's Joker. She was so sad that he dies at the end. She's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
is he not going to be in the sequels?" And I was like, "Well, that's not really the style of these." But
that was the great example what I was talking about, where every superhero movie is like, you see this great villain, fuck him, he's dead. It's like, but what about later? Although
yeah,
he was supposed to be in Batman 5 or whatever the hell it was supposed to be called.
right, Batman Triumphant. Yeah, but
Yeah,
that
Batman
was going to be like
Triumphant.
a dream from Scarecrow, I think.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a Scarecrow Grass vision, which ironically I didn't think about this until right now. It was kind of what Arkham Knight did.
Yeah. I mean, that was a fun use of Scarecrow though.
Yeah,
But anyways, but yeah, I'd like to talk about like the existing Superman movies if we can do that before this new one gets here. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
it would be. Superman 4 also has a lot of strange history behind it. That that deleted scene, for instance, that I mentioned is fascinating that they took that out entirely. But it because it also kind of explains some stuff about what Lex Luthor's plan. I feel, and it also had something in it that made me laugh. So I didn't know this when I was growing up because I didn't watch Superman 4 when it came in theaters. Is that Superman 4 had a Burger King sponsorship. You know how companies pay to be put into a movie. Burger
The
King,
famous cigarette truck in Superman 2.
yeah,
Great
exactly.
example.
So Superman 4 was supposed to have Burger King in the background of it. It's only in that deleted scene.
Oh wow, they got ripped off then. They got
Yeah,
left on the cutting room floor.
it's also a great deleted scene, which is why did you take it out of this movie? Because it's actually a really fun moment. Because it's the closest to Bizarro we ever got, but he looks more like the Frankenstein monster
Yeah,
kind of
but
thing.
he looks so different than like the I don't know, like He-Man in a cape version that's in like the rest of that movie. It's crazy to me that Superman 4 could have been that different. That like they were already in production shooting things and they didn't even know like the look of their villain.
Yeah, it's
So,
crazy that entire movie exists. And if you ever get a chance, I do highly recommend reading the comic adaptation because it's wild.
I should check that out cuz yeah, I don't know anything about the comics. So,
He turns into a rocket at one point.
Nuclear Man?
Yeah, that's all I will say about that.
I mean, he's kind of yeah, he's like Nuclear Man. He's kind of like Nuclear Missile Man, right? Like that's what he was born out of. So
It's
it's
so
on
dumb.
theme, I guess.
It's
But
so dumb, but it's a fun. It's like a single issue too. It's not like one of those thick ones that they used to make. But it's really funny to have. Like, I'm just happy to have it because it's like the two of them fighting over the the uh the flag or whatever.
Oh
But
yeah, because he has to pick the flag back up on the moon. So
yeah. Also, did you see that clip of John Cryer meeting the guy who played Nuclear Man again for the first
I
time?
did at like a convention or something. Yeah, that was recent.
Yeah, and then the guy had the jacket that John Cryer wore. He's like, "Where did you get this? I haven't seen this since the movie wrapped." What a crazy world.
But Superman 4 was the first Superman movie of my lifetime. So it came out in 1987. My wish for James Gunn's Superman is that I wish for it to be my favorite Superman movie of my lifetime. And that's honestly like a pretty low bar to clear.
It's
So
true. My lifetime mostly involved Superman Returns and Man of Steel. Pretty much. I remember where Superman Returns came out. I was so excited. I'm like, a Superman movie that I can watch brand new in the theater for the first time ever. And I was like, this movie is just kind of weird.
it's so funny. I have vivid memories of listening to the supermanhomepage.com podcast in 2005, listening to like their reactions to the first trailer for Superman Returns and stuff like that. So,
Those are
yeah.
different times.
Yeah,
Different
hard to believe that
times.
was 20 years ago. Everything is so different yet so similar.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'd love to talk about the existing Superman movies as we approach the new one coming July 11th, and also just to remind people the comics that James Gunn says are the biggest inspirations on this movie. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, Superman for All Seasons, Kingdom Come, and All Star Superman. I'm gonna try to reread those soon, but I think
Highly
it'd be fun
recommend
to
all of
talk about
them.
those.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Yeah, I highly recommend every single one of them. The only one that, if you guys ended up reading, is Whatever Happened to Man of Tomorrow. Just know there's a lot of backstory and a lot of history that's going on because it's technically the end of an entire run of Superbad.
Do you know what
So
I just learned about that recently? Is
what was
that
that?
originally they actually wanted Jerry Siegel to write that, but then they thought it would be too big of a legal nightmare to have to deal with him again. So they gave it to Alan Moore, but or whatever version of the story you believe. Alan Moore choked someone to give him that assignment
That's
allegedly, but
It's hard to tell with those guys, but
yeah.
the one thing you will always understand about every single writer who claims to hate superheroes, they always love Superman, minimum.
Yeah, Garth Ennis wrote a great Superman story. Alan Moore wrote a great Superman story. So, but that's a lot of the best Superman writers are from across the pond. Is another thing.
I always find that fascinating about them, to be honest, as well.
Dan DiDio one time said that like the big American writers always come to DC because they want to do Batman, and the big British writers always come to DC because they want to do Superman.
I kind of love that. It also explains why so many British actors become superhero actors.
But yeah, they love Big Blue in the UK apparently. So
I think that's a lot of fun. Don't read the Superman True It's terrible. I hate that story so much.
I've never read it, but I've
I just don't find it funny because it's written by what, John Cleese, I want to
mhm.
say, and it's just not funny in my opinion. It's just so weird. Like, there's a couple of things that make me laugh, but for overall, I just found it really bad. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
I own a copy. I've owned it for a long time, but I've flipped through it. I've never actually sat down and read it cover to cover, but
I
maybe
remember being
someday I
very
will.
excited and just being like, "Oh, this is bad." But there's a lot of great Superman media, though, guys, out there. If you're not going to read, those four things, Superman Lois, all the entire series is on Blu-ray right now. Absolute Superman is up to number 6, I want to say. It
6 just came out last week, I think.
was
So
great.
big reveal in it.
Yeah, super great reveals in that, as well as Superman. The Superman storyline is going really strong right now. They're ramping up to some crazy shit. I think it's kind of the finale almost to Joshua Williamson's ideas. So I'm curious to see how that fully plays out. And then Action Comics just got past a very bland story, in my opinion. So I'm hoping for the rest of it. The rest from here on will be more interesting. And then of course, Justice League Unlimited. has Big Blue in it, as well as World's Finest just wrapped up another storyline that I thought was that brought back another Silver Age character that I thought was a lot of fun. So Superman is in one of the a great spot right now,
Yeah,
and you have
I've been
plenty of great
enjoying
Superman
both
media.
those, JLU and World's Finest. And we also have like the Dan Slott book coming.
That's right. Dan Slott's. I don't know if he's jumping ships or per se, but he's like he might be. He's not going to do Marvel anymore, I guess. But he's doing a new Superman story or Superman series. Do you remember what it's called?
Superman Unlimited, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and so I'm curious to see what Dan Slott does with Superman. He
So,
can't change any status quos, so we'll see how that plays out.
but a lot of cool stuff on the horizon. So looking forward to seeing it, reading it, talking about it in the future. And if there is a trailer on April 18th, I am going to try to do a reaction live. But then I'd love to do like a breakdown with Mike. So be on the lookout for that whenever we get the next trailer.
Yes. Oh, I almost forgot one other comic. Secret Six is what John Kent is up to now.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware that he was in the Secret Six book. So
Yeah, apparently they're not going to call him Superman in that because people keep calling him Super Teen or some shit like
right.
that. So I think they're going to call him the Super Son, some shit
Yeah,
like that.
right. Yeah, that's the thing is he's branded as Super Son going forward, which well,
So
that's a
it was just
choice,
such a weird thing to do, but sure, I guess.
looking forward to having some more Superman convos in the future, and until next time, as always, keep it super, y'all.